Financial uncertainty and the general cost of living is a major concern for many in our province. That stress can have a big impact on mental health. Dr. Samra Zafar is joining us here for a closer look at how this is linked to increased rates of depression, anxiety, and even suicide. So good morning to you. Thanks so much for being here. First of all, how does psychological distress around financial cases manifest in day-to-day life?
Thank you for having me. And this is such an important topic, especially right now. We're surrounded with all this news around, tariffs and declining stock market, and we don't know what's going to happen to our employment. Inflation may rise again. So all these worries can actually activate our stress response and activate it to the point that leads to psychological distress. And that can manifest in different ways. So first of all, there's increased anxiety, constantly thinking about money, overthinking about each expense, constantly checking your bank account. Can be social stigma and guilt and regret about not having saved enough, or guilt over certain expenses that you've had, even shame around needing support. And it can lead to insomnia, fatigue, digestive issues, muscle tension, high blood pressure, all these things that we associate with anxiety. There can also be an impact on our social life. So you can withdraw from people because you're ashamed now of, I won't be able to go out and afford that fancy dinner anymore. So maybe I should withdraw from my friends because I can't spend as much. And then in some cases, we also see rises in substance use because people are turning to different coping mechanisms that can be maladaptive. There can also be an increase in overspending because it gives you that instant dopamine hit. You buy something and you feel good for a moment, and it's that little bit of instant gratification and relief, but then actually compounds the problem later on. And in extreme cases, which is something we saw in the 2008 financial crisis and the Great Recession, that there was an increase in suicide rates during and after the financial crisis. And then, when you layer on other intersectionality, so people who have had financial abuse in the past, or who have lived through poverty, or perhaps, somebody who is close to retirement and they're seeing their stock portfolio decline, those effects can be even more exacerbated, and not just during the financial crisis, but even after it has subsided.
So all of this can feel like a mountain. What's your suggestion to manage all of it?
So, first of all, the biggest thing is to understand your individual psychological stress response, because everybody feels stress differently. Some people might be able to roll it off their back and get on with their day to day, but for others, it can be extremely distressing. And people, who have lived through poverty, for instance, or if you've gone through a childhood where your parents were constantly fighting about money, or constantly, you were in debt in the past, it can actually trigger those feelings, because you'd be like, oh my God, am I going to go and live in poverty again? Am I going to be in debt again? So whenever you've had financial crisis in the past, or you've lived through some of those things, it can feel much, much more debilitating than for somebody who hasn't. So understanding our individual stress response is the first and foremost thing. Then be kind and compassionate to yourself. We can never predict market upturns and downturns. We may experience regret, but there's no way of knowing. Hindsight is always 20/20, but you did the best you could with the information you had at the time. So give yourself that compassion and that self-care. Acknowledge the feelings that you're having, but resist ruminating over them. Being proactive about our self-care, like diet, movement, mindfulness, breathing techniques, talking and connecting with people who are probably feeling the same things you're feeling. They're probably feeling the same guilt, regret, shame, all those things that you're experiencing. So it can help, connecting with others can help us feel that we're not alone. If you have a tendency to, let's say, overspend, put down the limits on your credit cards, set transaction limits on your bank account, make a separate account that is like your spending account with just a limited amount of money so you don't tend to overspend. Have an accountability partner. Having a budget can help us feel a little bit more in control, and can also reduce our anxiety a little bit. So, small steps, even, choosing a home cooked meal in a different location in your home, so it feels like a bit of a restaurant feeling and a new thing. It can also, those small steps can go a long, long way. And understand that there is no shame in seeking help. And seeking help is actually a sign of strength. So reach out and ask for professional help if you need it, whether it's from a therapist or whether it's with your financial planner or friends and family.
It's an important advice. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you'd like to connect with Dr. Zafar, you can check out samrazafar.com.